What drives a man to such extremes of violence and power? Could it be the circumstances of his birth, the environment he was raised in, or perhaps something more inherent and personal? Let's journey back to the year 1949 to a small town named Rio Negro in Colombia. Here, in a humble family, a boy named Pablo Escobar was born. His father, a hardworking farmer, and his mother, a dedicated schoolteacher, struggled to provide for their family amidst poverty. Young Pablo's childhood was steeped in hardship, with the daily struggle of poverty imprinting on his young mind. His early life was a stark contrast to the opulence he would later come to command. The surroundings of his youth, the harsh realities of life in a poor Colombian town, these were the elements that helped shape the man he would become. To understand the man, we must first understand the boy he once was. A boy born into poverty, who dreamed of more. From humble beginnings a kingpin rises. But how did a poor boy from Rio Negro climb to the top of the world's most notorious drug cartel? Pablo Escobar, born into poverty, started his criminal career in his teens. His early exploits were as dark as they were daring. Grave robbing, selling contraband cigarettes, nothing was off limits for young Escobar. But it was his foray into the drug trade that would catapult him to infamy. In the early 70s, Escobar began smuggling cocaine. He had a genius for logistics and a ruthless approach to competition. His operations expanded rapidly, and by the late 70s he had created the Medellin cartel, a syndicate of drug traffickers that controlled the vast majority of the cocaine shipped to America. His empire was built on fear, violence, and above all, cocaine. With a ruthless determination and an unyielding thirst for power, Pablo Escobar had ascended to the top of the criminal underworld. But power comes at a price, and for Pablo Escobar, that price was paid in blood. In his pursuit of power, Escobar's tactics grew increasingly ruthless. His reign was marked by a brutal display of violence, a chilling demonstration of the lengths he'd go to maintain his grip on power. Escobar's war against his rivals was relentless. He orchestrated the murders of numerous competitors in the drug trade, ensuring his dominance in the underworld. But his violence wasn't confined to the shadows. It spilled over into the streets, into the lives of everyday Colombians. Perhaps the most shocking display of his disregard for human life was the bombing of Avianca Flight 203. Hoping to assassinate presidential candidate Cesar Gaviria, Escobar blew up an entire commercial flight. Gaviria wasn't on board, but hundreds of innocent lives were lost in this single devastating act. Escobar's reign of terror also waged war against the Colombian government. His paramilitary group, known as the Extraditables, conducted bombings, assassinations, and kidnappings, all aimed at destabilizing the government and avoiding extradition to the US. And yet, in the midst of this chaos, his family lived a life of opulence and fear. They were both protected and imprisoned by Escobar's power, their lives forever marked by his choices. Escobar ruled with an iron fist, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake, but every reign must eventually come to an end. The higher they climb, the harder they fall. And for Pablo Escobar, the fall was inevitable. The tides began to turn against the Kingpin when the Colombian government, with assistance from the United States, formed the Search Bloc. This special operations unit had one goal: to bring down Escobar. The Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, played a pivotal role, providing intelligence and tactical support. The noose was tightening, but it was betrayal from within Escobar's inner circle that proved to be his undoing. Longtime associates, weary of the constant danger and scrutiny, began to turn on him. Among these traitors was Diego Murillo Bejarano, also known as Don Berna, who had once been a trusted enforcer for Escobar. Berna, along with the Castano brothers, formed a vigilante group, Los Pepes, dedicated to hunting down Escobar. Their relentless pursuit led to the disclosure of Escobar's location. On December 2, 1993, the search bloc found him hiding in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin. A fierce gunfight ensued, and Escobar, once the seventh richest man in the world, met his end on a nondescript rooftop. Pablo Escobar's story is a cautionary tale of ambition, power, and ultimately self-destruction. It begs the question, was it all worth it in the end?